A major piece of investigative journalism over a year in the making played out on the front pages of the New York Times this week. The series, The Invisible Child, brought Dasani, a 12-year-old homeless girl on the streets of New York City, to life. Meet Dasani.
This is Dasani, named after the bottled water because to her mother it signified luxury. She's a proud 4-foot 8-inch tall 12-year-old and one in an invisible army of children, 22,000 strong, who are homeless in New York City. And this is what passes for a home, a 520 square foot room shared with her parents and 7 siblings in a dilapidated city-run shelter.
I am going to college.
School is where Dasani can find an escape, learning to recite poems from memory.
Phenomenal Woman by Maya Angelou. Pretty woman wonders where my secret lies. I'm not you, or built a suit, a fashion model style.
Despite her tough circumstances, Dasani has boundless energy. She dreams big, but even her dreams are clouded by the despair that surrounds her.
In your imagination, what does the perfect childhood look like?
Quiet, flowers everywhere, sparkles on the ground. Mom and Dad always talked of a perfect childhood. Yeah, Mom and Dad can be drunk at a perfect childhood.
So you think that being drunk is a part of the perfect childhood? The parents are drunk?
Yes, because when they're drunk, you ask for anything, they tell you can get it. That's a perfect childhood.
Really, Dasani, you really think a perfect childhood is your parents?
You said use my imagination.
Okay.
I used it.
That voice you heard on the tape with Dasani was Andrea Elliot, the New York Times reporter who spent 15 months chronicling this family's struggle. And Andrea joins us now. I have to say, an extraordinary piece of journalism, maybe the most remarkable thing I have read this year.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And Dasani, one of 22,000 homeless children in the city of New York, but a remarkable young girl.
She is. She's a remarkable girl. I would argue that her circumstances are less remarkable because of the sheer size of this population. But this kid is curious, funny, whip smart. Her resilience was something that I really was curious about myself, how strength played a role in getting her through her day-to-day life.
And grown up. I mean, she's 11 years old for most of the time you spent with her. And yet she's kind of a surrogate parent.
She is, very much so. And one of the things I think I came away with after spending a year, more than a year with this family, was just seeing how the very qualities that potentially could help her escape her circumstances, her strength, her resilience, her intelligence, are also things that have become indispensable to carrying the family forward, in a sense. She's relied upon to hold it together because this is a family that struggles with a lot of problems, and so it's a little bit the irony of her strengths in the way that they become a weakness.
And you talk about how that number caught your eye, 22,000 homeless children. This is, to put it in context, they couldn't all fit in Madison Square Garden.
Right.
And yet this is the invisible side of homelessness. We don't see these children as much.
It's true. I find it really striking how when I was with them, kind of just in their daily lives in New York City, how easily they remain on the margins and sort of in the shadows of city life. And part of that has to do with the fact that I think the experience of poverty in the United States is one that is more subtle than in other places I've covered. And so in New York City, a lot of the garments, for instance, clothing garments that are donated that find their way to this family come from households of means. So the children will be wearing used Uggs and Patagonia fleeces, and you just don't, poverty doesn't wear itself in such an obvious way, and yet what I think that the family would say about that is that it makes it no more superior than poverty in other countries when you consider the incredible gap between what these children have and what they need in order to thrive. This child, Dasani, and her siblings, is really gifted. She's an amazing athlete. She's a great dancer. She's really, really smart. Had she been born into other circumstances, she would be thriving. But in her life as it is, she's merely surviving.
And describe the conditions, because you saw something none of us ever get a chance to see, because frankly, we're not allowed inside. Describe the circumstances inside a family homeless shelter. This is some 300 people living in this shelter.
So this is a shelter that is run by the city, and most shelters in New York City are actually run by nonprofits. There's a range of experiences, but this shelter is definitely one that struggles with a lot of terrible conditions, in the sense that there's mold on the walls, mice in their room. They were laying out traps every night and shooting video of the mice that they would catch. They had to hang their food from a plastic bag from the ceiling. The food was served rancid a lot of the time. Two of the children are asthmatic, one is legally blind, and they shared this small space with 10 people basically doubled up on mattresses in one small space for years. And I think that kind of compressed experience of living would make any family fall apart. And
I mean, incredible, and the photographs are, I mean, really bring it to light. But you're a mom. You've got two young children. This is not like any really other story, right? This had to affect you, especially a year, 15 months.
It very much opened my eyes, as also a New Yorker, to a different experience of the city. And this is kind of what I came away with again and again, was just the sense that while New York is very much a place defined by what's out of reach, I mean, it's impossible. Most people feel that there's something out of reach when they're living in New York, an apartment they can't get or a job. But this is a population for whom everything is out of reach. And I think that is what struck me the most, being with these children day in, day out, and just thinking about how that experience is replicated tens of thousands of times in this homeless population, but also by millions across the country. This sense that this is a country that is filled with promise that isn't for them, that isn't something that's attainable by them.
And just, we're almost out of time, but I can't imagine you're going to leave this story behind. I mean, I could tell from watching that tape, you've almost become a mentor to Dasani. You're not only chronicling her life, but you've become close to this girl and her family.
I remain a journalist. My role is as a journalist. The reporting, when you're reporting on children, it's a very different thing. You really do have to connect with them and talk about their feelings and their experiences in a way that draws them out. And she's a very vocal child. I hope to continue to follow them, yes.
All right, Andrea Elliot, again, an extraordinary piece of journalism and a really important one. Thank you for taking the time to share it with us.
Thank you.